Hello, good day viewers. I am Okocha P. Marcel and this is my channel. In this life, we must never learn how to remain neutral and silent, because your silence will help the oppressor to keep on oppressing the masses. But when you speak up, they see it as an attack. They see it as a caution. They see it as a warning to every bad system they are trying to create. And that is why in this channel, we talk about trending and political issues and we share news contents. So follow us, share our videos, subscribe to our channel, and always come by to watch our daily updates.
We have in the studio Isaac Anumudu, who's a lawyer and policy analyst. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Anumudu.
Thank you for having me.
So today, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal begins its sitting, starting with a pre-hearing sitting, and they're meant to say, is it the one, let me start from asking this question. The 180 days for this sitting, do they start today, or would they begin to count after the pre-hearing sitting, which is today?
It should have started being counted from the time the petitions were filed. Because that's when the work of the tribunal was activated. Don't forget, this is not the first time the tribunal is sitting. Hearing is only commencing today. Most pre-hearings had gone on last month of April. If you remember, there was an objection by the APC that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, P2B, was not even qualified to have, contested the election ab initio. That application has already been taken and dismissed by this petition tribunal, for your information. So that tells you that the tribunal is already working. Had taken some applications already. Some keeping and house clearing job has already been done. What we expect the tribunal to do today is to go into substantive hearing of the petition.
But they called it a pre-hearing sitting.
Well, I wonder why they called it so. Maybe journalists may have seen it from that angle, just like I'm telling you now. If I wasn't telling you that the tribunal has already started sitting and has already taken some decisions, perhaps not every Nigerian would have known that. The concern, however, people seem to have is on the entire modus operandi of the tribunal and the issue you just raised in your intro about the time within which the tribunal should go about its job and the effect it will have on the polity. And I'm sure you would have been referring to section 285, subsection 6 and 7 of the Constitution. And that section talks about giving the first tribunal, which is the Court of Appeal, 180 days within which to conclude its hearing and determination of the appeal, while section 285 subsection 7 now subsequently gives the Supreme Court, which is the final court on this matter, 60 days, 2 months, within which to hear and determine the appeal from the Election Petition Tribunal. Now, many people have misconstrued this to indicate that the tribunal must spend 180 days. If you read that section, nothing in that section says or even suggests that. The only thing that section seems to say is to impress on members of the tribunal the need for expedition, for speed, in view of the sensitive and peculiar nature of election petitions, that they must not exceed 180 days. But there's nothing there that says they must wait for 180 days. No.
And they must use it all up.
Or they must use it all up. Nothing says that these petitions cannot be concluded in 7 days. Nothing also says that the Supreme Court must use up the entire 60 days, 2 months before it decides the appeal. In fact, to underscore the exigency, the Constitution went further in section 285 subsection 8 to say that in order to expedite, nothing warrants even the tribunal to give reasons for its judgment. In other words, the tribunal can simply say, this is our judgment, we'll give you reasons later, just to ensure that this thing is expedited. That's what section 285 subsection 8 says. That underscores it, and that's why most Nigerians, like someone like former president of the NBA, Dr. Olusegun, had been clamoring for some radical proactivity by the tribunal, because this petition, the way it is structured, is such that it can, in my opinion, be disposed of in 7 days, maximum 14 days. If you give me time, I'll tell you how it can be done.
Go ahead.
For example, the candidates have 4 major grounds for their petitions. I'm talking about the 2 major candidates. There may be other candidates, but the Labour Party, the PDP, and their presidential candidates have filed petitions. And, for example, and their petitions are similar. The summary of it, which is they are challenging the declaration of the APC candidate as president-elect on one major ground, that the constitutional requirement for that declaration was not met at all, and therefore INEC ought not to have made that return. They feel very strong about it, whether rightly or wrongly. And they hinge that on section 134, subsection 2, A and B of the Constitution, which says that for you to be declared the president-elect, where there are more than 2 candidates, you must have scored to 25% of 2/3 of the votes in 2/3 of the states of the federation and the Federal Capital Territory. And they said, whatever you scored, if you did not score 25% of votes in the Federal Capital Territory, you should not be declared president-elect. Now, they have their reasons. The other parties feel, no, it doesn't. It's wrong in law. They cited many cases, and the other people too have the argument. They say, how can you say you must get 25% of FCT? If you get 25% of about 30 states, why should FCT be the decider? The other side of people are saying, no, you must interpret the law the way it is. We lawyers have various modes of interpretation. We have the golden rule, the jus generis rule, and all the other rules. But the basic is the literal rule, where the law is literally clear. Don't add anything to it. And the law says you must have 2/3 of, this 25% of 2/3 says, and means conjunction, and means plus, and means including, and means together with. And they now raise the argument that, what if WAEC said, the university said you must get English and maths before you are admitted to read medicine, and you now get 8 other credits, 10 credits, but you lack English, you lack medicine. Would they admit you? The answer is no. So if that's what the law says, that can be decided by the tribunal. It doesn't need 180 days. You can call the lawyers, because the result for FCT is on the table. INEC has the certified result. It's online. If this party did not make 25%, come, all councils, come and address us. The tribunal can invite the parties, come and address us one day or 2 hours. Does this lack of 25%, is it fatal or it's not? And after addressing, the tribunal can adjourn to the next day and give its decision, and even tell you that I will give you reason later. That's what section 285 sub 8 empowers them to do. Now, if that fails and does not disqualify the APC candidate, you can go to the next one, which is the grounds of the opposition under section 115 of the Electoral Act, which forbids double nomination. Section 115D specifically forbids a candidate from taking nomination forms and filling nomination forms for 2 elective positions. It even went further to criminalize that misadventure in section 115 subsection K, 1K, by saying that the person will even be sentenced to 2 years imprisonment if you are found to have filled 2 nominations. Now, the opposition parties allege that the vice presidential candidate of the APC filled 2 nomination forms for both Senate and vice president. Now, they are saying that that is fatal, considering the clear, unambiguous provisions of section 115 of the Electoral Act. The matter is before the court, so we cannot conclude that this person is right or that person is right. But it is something that the tribunal can ventilate and deal with in 1 day. Address me for 2 hours. The forms are there. Certified true copies can be procured from INEC. Address us that by law, should this candidate be disqualified? Because if the vice president is disqualified, automatically it will affect the presidential candidate, like what happened in Bayelsa, where the deputy governorship candidate was disqualified for incongruities and issues of forgery. Automatically, that was what affected Leon, who was the APC governorship candidate, who was already conducting his parade for swearing in the next day, and the Supreme Court judgment came, and that was it. PDP became the governorship, it became in charge of governor of Bayelsa State. That exactly is what will happen, because it's a joint ticket. Once one is affected, it affects the other.
If they go for that.
If they go for that. And that does not require 7 days, because it does not require calling of witnesses. It requires getting the certified true copies and the parties addressing the court on what the law says on that. Now, assuming you scale that second hurdle, there is the third hurdle, the issue of the non-committal forfeiture that happened in the United States of America for $460,000. Was it fatal? Is it such that falls within the contemplation of our constitution that any person so convicted or so found guilty for anything money laundering, blah, 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 should not aspire or should not be validly elected as our president? That again is sub judice. I can't stay here now and say this is what this correct argument or the other one. But the parties are strongly contesting that is an issue. If it is so, it doesn't also require you to call witnesses from the 774 local government. No. All you need to do is someone, whoever can give you certified true copy of that judgment, which you're already seeing online, and get the parties to address the court. What is the legal effect of this on the candidacy of the APC? 1 week is enough for that. 1 day for this party, 1 day for that party, 1 day for that party, and the tribunal adjourns for 2 days and delivers judgment.
You know, what's all your submission so far point to the fact that the delays in resolving political issues as regards elections are caused by the lawyers themselves?
In some cases, yes. In fact, in most cases, yes. Because I'm not trying to blow the trumpet for our judges. They are there to do the work, and they are ready. Some of them sit till evening. You won't know, except some of us know that sometimes the tribunal sits on Saturdays and Sundays and sits even late into the night and are willing to do the job. But sometimes some of we lawyers come with all kinds of applications which they must listen to based on Section 36 of the Constitution, which guarantees fair hearing. So that is what we are calling for here is, that's why I used the initial word, judicial proactivity. That's the best word I can use for it. I can't say judicial activism. You don't want radicalized judiciary. But there can be judicial proactivism where the judiciary now takes the temperature, gauges the mood of the country, and say, wait a minute, we are not here for decoration. We are an independent arm of the government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary. Elections have been conducted by the executives. The legislature has made the electoral acts that enable that election to go on. Now it's on our table as the judiciary. We have the final say, and we must say it as it is without caring whose ox is God. If they have that attitude, they come up with practice directions, which they are entitled to, which they already have. Election petitions practice direction. They can amend it. The presiding officer can issue an order, amending it and saying, for this purpose, we are going to deal with these 3 issues within the next 3 weeks, within the next 2 weeks, within the next 1 week. Therefore, counsel, come tomorrow, prepared to address us on X, Y, Z. It's only when these 3 fail that you now talk about calling witnesses from all the states that some of the candidates claim they had more votes. The PDP candidate claimed he got more votes in Adamawa than was accredited to him. He got more votes in Rivers than was credited to him. The Labour Party candidate claims that he got more votes in Lagos, more votes in Rivers, more votes in Plateau, more votes in Kaduna that was credited to him. And that if those votes are actually returned back to Labour Party, like the case of Lagos where the PDP person even came on air and said Labour Party got 955,000 votes, but they were given 550 votes. Now, if those 400 votes they are calculating is all given back to Labour Party claims that it got majority of lawful votes in the election. PDP claims so. APC also claims so. So that is the one that may require you to call witnesses, look into IREB, as you said, look into, the details of beavers. But we don't and we must not get to that. If any of these 3 issues I have mentioned comes out successful. So the tribunal can, because of the mood of the country, where you see people feel restless. And let me tell you why it's very important. Section 13 of the Constitution. Let me read it for you, so that you understand why most Nigerians are feeling the way they are feeling as to why the tribunal should adopt a very proactive attitude to this. I read section 13 of the Constitution. It says, it shall mandatorily, it shall be the duty and responsibility of all organs of government and of all authorities and persons, organs of government including judiciary, and of all authorities and persons exercising legislative, executive, and judicial powers to conform to, observe, and apply the provisions of this chapter of this Constitution. And what does this chapter say? The next one, chapter 14, section 14, says, the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on the principles of democracy and social justice. Now, what is the social justice here? If 3 people have contested election and a result has been declared, and that result, the law allowing the announcement of that result provides for that result to be subjected to scrupulous judicial ventilation, and parties have gone to court. Do you not, is it not just, is it not mandatory by section 13 and 14 for the tribunal to expedite, when it has power so to do, to expedite and come to a decision before any of these three people is sworn in? Wait, is it not just, is it not social? We are all three contesting for something. You've been declared, and I feel wrongly you shouldn't. She feels wrongly you shouldn't. Why? And there is enough time. There is 2 months. There's even more than 2 months for this issue between the three of us to be resolved, so that if it's yours, we all congratulate you and wait for the next 4 years. If it's yours, the whole country moves forward. Well, because right now, there's anxiety, there's agitation. Even investors are waiting.
Mr. Numudu, we do not have 2 months now to swearing in.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Right now, I think today is already the 8th.
No, I was talking about from when the election was conducted.
Indeed. So the 8th of May was, today is the 8th of May. That's where we are now. I think we have about 21 days or so.
21 days.
21 days to swearing in. Now, these agitations came in shortly after the presidential elections. I think they're also being asked for the governorship elections as well. I mean, how this is going to all work is very unclear. But we do know that we've made some progress in terms of the time frame that we used to have. It is 180 days time frame. Was not, it didn't just fall from the sky. It was as a result of our experience whereby a president would have been in office 3 years, a case is also still being heard. So if right now, as stipulated by our electoral acts and our constitution, we now have a time frame of 180 days. Some people will say, what's the hurry? Why are we hurrying?
Exactly. That's why I'm saying the hurry. First of all, let me use this opportunity to also call on the incoming 10th National Assembly to quickly amend Section 285 to provide that all election contestations should end before swearing in, because it's actually unfair and offense Section 13 and 14 of the Constitution. It does not create for the social justice that should exist in our electoral process. But having said that, just like you rightly said that in the past it would take 3 years, sometimes it's even a month or 2, 3, almost 4 years before the final judgment will come. And so the whole thing would have become academic then. Now, if it is possible to bring it down to 180 days, plus another 60 days, which is 8 months. If it were possible to bring it from 3-4 years or ad infinitum to 8 months, it's still possible to bring it down to 2 months. It's very possible to bring it within 8 weeks. I've just told you how it can be done. I've just told you how, if any of these 3 issues succeeds, that is what ends the election petition. And if they don't succeed, you can now go into the other issue and give parties time limit within which they would call their evidences. So even as we are right now, all hopes are not lost. If the tribunal decides to follow this proactive approach, all they need to do as the sitting starts today is to reel out the practice direction to the lawyers. We want you to address us on this and this. We want to deal with these 3 issues first before we go into the issue of which parties called majority of lawful votes as contemplated by Section 134, subsection 3 and 4.
From what you also, what I also heard you say, you want the Supreme Court, the Electoral Tribunal to be given judgment on each case as it proceeds. Is that correct?
Not on each case as it proceeds, but to take what I would call preliminary issues. Issues that will not require the whole evidence from across the country. Because these 3 issues I've mentioned are not issues that will require evidence from polling agents, returning officers, state collation officers, and all that.
But what you're saying is that it should give a decision on each one as it goes.
As it goes, it could just allocate a week to deal with these 3 issues. They can even say address us on all these 3 matters. And we take 2 days, 3 days to give our decision on them.
So let's even grant that happens. You know, that the Elections Petitions Tribunal does that, and then maybe perhaps for whatever reason it doesn't succeed, and then they say, okay, let us take the one where all the evidences come together. Maybe they're even able to handle all of that within a month or thereabouts, or even 6 weeks. What about the Supreme Court? Because oftentimes, from what we know, our litigants are never satisfied with the first court of instance. They always want to get up to the Supreme Court. It's like as if the Supreme Court eventually must have a say in these issues. Don't we see that the Supreme Court sittings might also, go past the inauguration date?
That's what I'm saying. It would only happen because the law as it is now allows it. That's why I started by calling for urgent amendment of the Constitution, Section 285, subsection 6 and 7 should be urgently amended because it does not conform with Section 13 and 14 of the same Constitution that demands mandatorily social justice for everything you do in Nigeria. But even going by the question you asked, I'm saying that the Court of Appeal, which is the Election Petitions Tribunal of First Instance, and the Supreme Court can issue practice directions that limit the parties to the time within which they should conclude their cases. The law allows that. And that's what we are calling on them to do, considering the mood of the nation. The country is more divided than it has ever been. Politicians have exploited our religious and ethnic fault lines. We need urgent healing. We need urgent amity and concord for progress and prosperity for our nation. Investors are waiting to see which direction to commit their investments in this country. So even, let me tell you, even the bandits are waiting and watching. Have you not noticed that since election, the banditry has seemingly subsided? Have they all died? No. Have you noticed that kidnapping has seemingly subsided? They've not gone out of the face of the earth. They are apparently surreptitiously waiting to see the outcome, which means they also react to our electoral process. That is why the courts should be very urgent about this, because it affects our security, it affects our economy, it affects our unity, our love and progress.
Mr. Tinubu, we want to thank you so much for coming. But just before you go, now they have 180 days for the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, and you talked about the need to speed up things. What about the governorship's Petition Tribunal? That hasn't even started sitting yet.
Those ones are also going on simultaneously. They've started, it's just that they're happening in the states.
Okay.
They've started, and they should apply the same speed also, so that we can all make progress as a country.
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Isaac Anumodu is a lawyer and public analyst, policy analyst. Thank you for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So, Isaac,
We are victims of bad political leadership. We are the victims of bad system of government. And for this reason, you must not remain silent. I must speak up and you must speak up. When you remain neutral to every bad political system, it helps the oppressor, not the victims who are the masses like me and you. And for that reason, we share news content, we talk realities out of trending and political issues on this channel. My name is Okochapi Marcel, and this is my channel. Please kindly help me to share my videos, subscribe to this channel, and always come by for new videos.